Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Mojito Movement. And today I'm joined by somebody, I throw the word legend around probably way too much, but genuinely today's guest is a legend in the industry. I'm very excited for today's episode. So we'll do a real quick cheers of the mojito. So cheers to that. I think you're rocking a coffee this morning because
Yeah.
you're not a high functioning alcoholic like me apparently. But we're gonna dive straight in, and I'm gonna get you to introduce yourself because yeah, like I said, I'm very excited to have you on. I think this is gonna be a great episode. So over to you. Tell everybody who you are and where they can find you on social media.
Well, thank you for the lovely introduction. Very high praise. So thank you. That means a lot. I am quite croaky this morning. Not sure why. But anyway, I'm Emma Storey-Gordon, and probably known as like ESG Fitness to anyone within the industry who does know who I am. And you can find me at ESG Fitness on Instagram. It's probably the best place, or esgfitness.co.uk. And yeah, I'm a coach first and foremost. I also run a business mentorship. I also run EIQ Nutrition, which is a nutrition qualification primarily for personal trainers. We're about to expand that into an online coaching qualification, which I'm really excited about because I think that that's been something that's been missing in the industry. And a lot of
Yeah.
people feel like, well, it's not even they feel like, you basically have to go and do your personal training qualification, learn absolutely nothing about online coaching, which is a completely different skill set, in my opinion. And then they're like, yeah, good. Now you're an online coach as well, or you can be an online coach. So there's a
Yeah.
huge kind of problem with the quality of coaching in the industry. So hopefully that's going to help that. And yeah, that's mostly what I do.
Sweet. I mean, on that point, I think that's very exciting because you're quite right. The current personal training qualification, I don't even think it qualifies people to become a particularly good in-person trainer, to be honest. It's very basic. Doesn't really help from a business perspective or an empathetic perspective. But the other big challenge that we've got is a lot of people bypass their qualifications when they start to get social media famous and label themselves as coaches, and they don't even have a below standard personal training qualification, let alone an online coaching one. So I think that is something the industry has been crying out for a long time. So that's very exciting. Very exciting. Have
Good.
you got
I'm glad that you think so. I'm really excited for it, and it's not just that like myself and my business partner Amelia are teaching on it. We've got like industry experts in to do the parts that, hey, to be completely honest, we're not as good at. Like, why not learn from the best? Why not get the best people in?
Yeah.
And I am really strong on personal training is not the same as online coaching. And I'll hold my hands up and say, like, I was a decent personal trainer, but there's no way I wasn't world class.
Yeah.
Like, I've worked with some in-person trainers that are unbelievable and they are so much better than I ever was. But I am a world-class online coach and they are very different things. There are
Yeah.
obviously some things that translate, but like fundamentally, like they're different, and so you need a different skill set and you need a different qualification. And I think that's part of the reason why we see a lot of like, obviously there are the people that just don't care about qualifications, and it's quite hard to get them, or they just don't care about the quality of coaching that they're giving out, and they're like, if I can make money from this, fine. Now I've got this big following from doing Love Island or some shit like that, and then it's like,
Yeah.
bam, now I can sell this stuff. The fact that we're like, oh, do you know who we should listen to? Some random girl that was on Hollyoaks 10 years ago
Yeah.
is actually wild, but that's a complete side topic. You can't
Yeah.
really force them to do it, but there are some really passionate people who really want to help people who don't have the skill sets to do that, and or don't know like how to kind of package that up and how to coach people well online. Like, that's really who it's for, the people that are like, I really want to have a good impact here. And that then, like, to give them their credit, there are some people that have, maybe reached a huge following from some kind of fame, but are also like, I really want to help people, like I struggled with this
Yeah.
myself and now I want to pass that on and I want to do it in the right way. And this is going to allow them to do it.
Amazing. It sounds exactly what the industry has been crying out for. One of the big reasons for wanting to get you on here, I think we share a lot of similar views in terms of the industry has been flooded for way too long with a lot of below standard coaching, but also just below standard information in general. Anyone and their dog can position themselves as an expert, and as we see on the daily, many of them do. And most of what they share is is absolutely terrible. I was literally having an interaction on Threads this morning. I put a post up which basically highlighted that if anyone is attempting to tell you that fat loss occurs from anything other than a deficit, and they've got, secrets to spot reduce and stuff, they're basically lying. And somebody chirped up in the comments basically trying to promote the carnivore diet, and I'm like, you are exactly what I'm talking about. And it just makes me laugh that people will use phrases like, you need to educate yourself on proper science, and then go to promote what is basically an eating disorder backed by zero science. And you're like,
Or a YouTube link of somebody else who's a discredited doctor or a
yeah,
chiropractor or some shit, and they're like saying all this stuff. Yeah,
yeah. So
it's sad, and I can understand how it's so confusing for people as well.
yeah, exactly. And the thing is my I'm going to get you to kind of go through your journey in terms of how you've got to where you are. But in terms of my own background, one of the reasons why I ended up coaching the way that I did is, like everybody else, I had ambitions and desires to get in better shape, and you just get dragged along through fad diet, through extreme training approach. I ended up doing the whole physique competition thing and really ruining my own body image and my relationship with food. And you get to a point where you go, there's got to be a better way. There's got to be a more logical way. And for me, I always thought in qualifying, I was gonna compete and then coach other people to compete. And then through going through that process myself, I was like, this is fucked. I don't want to encourage people to do this. And it completely changed my perspective of how I wanted to help people. And I think it's this is probably a nice point to pivot slightly to yourself. Talk us through your story and how you got to where you are now, because obviously what you're doing in the industry is incredible, and we need more people like you. But how did you get to this point where you're like, I'm going to try and change this industry for the better?
Yeah, I've been here a while. What I will say about competing, just my one kind of take on it, is it does always surprise me that people seem surprised by the fact it's ruined their body image. Because I'm like, you've literally asked people to judge you solely on your body.
Yep.
What did you think was going to happen? Like then your self-worth becomes highly dependent on your body, because you've literally created, whether it's a following or a social media or, a whole journey towards this, it's only about your body.
Yeah.
That's why it's fucked your body image, right? So
Yeah.
I would avoid doing that.
I think for me on that side of things, and again, it's probably similar for a lot of people. The industry reveres physique competitors so much. They're on this pedestal. They're the pinnacle of fitness, and that's how everybody should look. And they're they're all in top 1% physiques, and that's what we should aspire to. So in my head, I was like, it's going to be this wonderful journey of every week I get closer to that, and it's so positive. When actually in reality, every week I feel I'm getting closer to it, just for my coach to be like, here's all the areas that you look shit in, and you go, oh, so I don't look like the dude on the Instagram. And he's like, no, you don't. And if you don't sort X, Y, Z, if you don't go on gear, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, you'll never look like that. And you go, oh well, why am I doing it then?
Yeah.
And that's the side that doesn't get promoted, because everybody digs in and grinds it out, and the select few that make it to the stage and do very well dine out on their photos of how great they looked, because that's become their entire personality, unfortunately.
I don't know if this is so common anymore because I'm a bit older now, but there used to be this very noticeable trend in women that competed where they'd start going to the gym, get in decent shape, decide they were going to compete, make a whole journey about it, say it was amazing, get all the best day of my life, here's me on stage, da da da. About 2 months later, come back, post the same picture, say this was the worst day of my life. I felt like shit. I've been lying to myself. I binged it ate before, I've been dehydrating. I could barely walk up the stairs. I've been cramped the whole night afterwards. Couldn't stop eating for 2 months after I've regained all the weight. I feel like shit about, and it's just like, and then they kind of create a program based around like, I don't want that to happen to you kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which, you know what, everyone has their own journey, and I'm certainly not like turning my nose up at that. It was a shame that happened so much and that so many people had to go through that. And that they couldn't it looked like no one could learn from each other of like,
yeah,
so many times.
It's almost like people, it's almost like they viewed the realistic side of things in terms of actually, do you know what, this wasn't as great as it looked, as the sort of like the falsification and the glamorization, and people went, "Oh, it's probably not that bad." They were probably being really honest when they said, when they stepped on stage, it was the best day of their life, and kind of maybe a lot of people don't want to hear that what they're glamorizing and picturing in their head is going to be like their pinnacle moment is actually going to be really shit. I'm not too sure as to the logic behind it, but you're quite right. It's
Yeah,
you do see it.
I think it comes from, and this is a quote from Naval Ravikant. It's something along the lines of like, it's easier to achieve your goals and then decide they're like not worth it than just to be like, oh, it's probably not worth it. And you could use this example as like getting a six pack. Everyone will kind of tell you like, you know what, having a six pack doesn't change your life. Like there's no point really getting one. But they're like, no, like you kind of need to do it to realize it's not worth it. Or, you know what I mean? Same with being rich. Everybody, you know, anyone you know that's rich is like, it's not actually that good. Doesn't mean that people don't want to be rich, you know, but most people like you have to achieve it to then be like, oh, okay, all that stuff that I worked for, like actually being here, it hasn't changed that much. You know, it was actually more important that I lived my life the way that I wanted to live before I had this money.
I think that happens with a lot of goals in general, doesn't it? Because again, we see it with like social media. I always assumed that when I hit like 10K on TikTok, I was like in my head, I was getting close to it. I was like, this is going to be the best day ever. I'm going to have a party. It's going to go mad. And then it happened. I didn't even notice it for like 3 days. I was like, oh, 10.4K. Like, when did that fucking happen? Like, missed my opportunity from a big celebration. And guess what? Nothing really changed. Like, everything's still the same. Business is like, you know, still doing the same thing. Like, you don't have these moments where you go, oh yeah, I've achieved this and now everything is perfect. And that's normally because, again, even with physique goals, the closer you get to where you thought was going to be your end goal, you're already thinking about the next step, the next stage. You're already kind of beginning to plan for that. And that's probably why people seem to think that I will be happy when I get to X weight, or if I have a six pack, or if I can bench whatever. And then when they get there, they're kind of like, oh, I'm not that asked, because they're already thinking about the next step.
That's exactly it. Whenever you get close to a goal, whether it's like earning a certain amount of money or having a certain amount of clients or being able to do a certain amount of pull-ups or something, like as soon as you get close to it and you realize it's within your grasp, you move on to the next thing. What am I going to do after this? Or what's the next goal? Or so, yeah. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's human tendency. And I think that's one of the reasons that people are successful, is that they are always pushing themselves. But then it's also just important, and sometimes this has to be somewhat forced, to like appreciate where you are as well. Like, hey, I did do this thing and I had been working towards it for years, and you know, that is an achievement in itself. And now I want to do the next thing, as opposed to just always looking forward and always being like looking for the next thing. There's a concept that's actually from business called the gap and the gain. And it's the notion that like most people are only ever looking at the gap, which is the gap between where they are now and where they want to be. And because where they want to be is always moving, there is always a gap. And so you can find that really demotivating. And then there are other people that look at both the gap and the gain. So rather than just like always looking at how far they have to go, they also turn around and they're like, wow, but I already lost 20 pounds. That's pretty amazing. That's pretty life-changing. Yeah, for sure. Now I'm like, oh, I would quite like to lose 5 more. I'd quite like to kind of see my muscles and get quite lean. Like, that's my next goal.
Yeah.
But actually, I need to give myself some credit for like how far I've already come.
Yeah.
Typical with business as well. You know, like people are always looking for the next thing. I'm like, look back at where you were a year ago. Like, it's pretty incredible what you've achieved. Like, give yourself some credit for that. I'm not saying don't push forward, because anyone who knows me listening to it would be like, yeah, that's not something Emma would say. But I am saying, like, give yourself credit for where you've been. And actually, I think that's quite a good tool to keep you motivated. Because if you're like, right, cool, well, I managed to go in a year from only having 5 clients that kept fluctuating up and down, and sometimes I'd only have 1, to actually having a sustainable business where I consistently have around 40 to 50 clients. Cool, now I want to launch this new thing. But the fact that I've gone from there to there, like this, I can do this thing. You know, it gives you the confidence to be like, well, I've done that hard part. Yeah, why can't I get 10 more clients? Or why can't I launch a group coaching program or whatever it is?
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well, just from a client's perspective, it's a conversation I have with clients almost daily, to be fair, is that if you're forever comparing where you are to where you're going, you're 9 times out of 10 just going to continuously feel frustrated, because you're forever going, I want to get there, I'm not there. And that's quite a negative conversation. And it's good to have goals to give you inspiration and something to work towards. But if you're never reflecting back of how far you've come, you're forever going to be getting pissed off with the situation. So I'm glad that there's an actual name for that. Because it's something that I try and work really hard with people to reflect backwards, and not just to go the opposite way and spend every single day trying to look for progress, like have I lost weight, have I dropped centimeters. Like, you don't want to obsess over seeing progress, but at the same time, when you're reflecting on how you're doing, it's vitally important to gauge your current position versus the one that you started, and how close to the where you deem to be your finish to be. Because if you only ever look in one direction, you tend to put yourself in a position where failure is more likely.
Agree.
So we went off on a tangent there.
Yes,
Take me back to the start. Take me back to the start. How did you get into this? And because obviously I followed you for quite some time. I think you first registered because I followed James Haskell and Chloe Madeley, and then obviously you and Chloe were obviously working with each other, and started following you then. My best friend, she's followed you even longer and kept sending me your stuff when I was first theorizing becoming a coach, and what have you. So I've kind of seen a lot of the transition myself. But how did it all come about? Where did you start, and was this ever the goal to get to where you are?
Well, I mean, that's a good question in itself, because like I don't think it could have been the goal, because what I do now didn't exist when I started. But I was the typical I wasn't very academic. I have ADHD and I was dyslexic at school, so like I did get through my exams and stuff, but I wasn't like the most overly academic person. So standard, what I did at university was sports science, because I was like, I like sport, I'll just do that. And my parents were quite like, you should go to university, like that's kind of the next thing. And I definitely was just going with the flow of like, this is what people do when they leave school, is like apply for university. So I went to university, and it was actually amazing, especially during the last couple of years. I think I realized that when I first went to uni and started sports science, and our course was slightly different than a lot of courses. So most sports science courses, kind of, you end up going to like a biology class, and then you'll have a tutorial to apply it to sport. Whereas Edinburgh was one of the only courses at the time, I don't know now, this was over 10 years ago, that did applied sports science. So it was like directly applied sport as you were learning it, which was great until the last couple of years, when I kind of realized I don't really care so much about sport. Actually, what was far more fascinating to me was the impact that diet and exercise can have in disease states. So like type 2 diabetes, for example. So when I graduated, I went and worked in a type 2 diabetes lab. That was really interesting. Then I decided I'd go to London to be a personal trainer. Didn't enjoy that at all. I just kind of felt like, weirdly, then my academic spark had been like lit, and I was like, this is really interesting, and I don't just want to, be in a gym the whole time. Like, I want to be using my brain. So anyway, I went back, and I worked as a research assistant for a while in a cardiovascular disease and diabetes lab. And what I learned there was amazing. It was the most varied job I've ever had. Like, I was going between like scanning people's carotid arteries to like down in the wet lab doing Western blots and assays, and like trying to figure out what was going on in like a kind of wet lab situation, and working on numerous different studies. And it was really, really interesting. Anyway, then I got offered a PhD in cancer and exercise, and I started that. And then, a very long story short, I would actually say not actually my fault, right? But basically I had to destroy the data because we didn't have the right ethical approval.
Okay.
And they wanted me to start again. And anyone who's done a PhD, hats off to you, you're incredible. But I wasn't even that far in. To be fair, I think I'd done like 8 months, but it takes so long to go through each process. I'd already so I'd started a study. So I'd done all the ethical approval. I'd started the study. I'd done like the research review for it. I'd got these women in. They'd all done their initial testing. We're like 1 week into the first program, and that's when I had to cut it. There is so much work that goes into that.
Yeah.
And when they were like, you can either start again, or you can move to this like random other project that had nothing to do with what I was doing. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to take a break like from this. And I would always personal training on the side anyway.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't, like, I basically had a broken heart over it. I was like, I can't actually just go back in and start. I have no motivation for it now. Like, you've literally just said everything that you've done.
Yeah. And I think with things like ADHD, obviously, I suffer with it myself, and I've been in similar situations. When I was doing A-level business studies, I forged my path down this piece of coursework that we had to do, and in true ADHD style, I bit off way more than I can chew, and I couldn't get it finished. Like I could not finish this piece of coursework, and I got given the option of basically pivoting and doing a BTEC in business and trying to cram 2 years worth into 1 year, and it was like a switch just went off. I went from being like so headstrong of like absolutely loving what I was doing to instantly being like, I have no interest. Like I can't do it. I just shut it down straight away. I was like, that's not going to work for me. And ended up just dropping out of A-level business. And I imagine there's probably an element of that to it as well, where you put so much into it and it lit that spark and you had that, that solid focus on it when it kind of runs its course and you get to that point where you're like, you mean I can't do this anymore? It's that ADHD switch just goes, fuck it, I don't want to know.
Or I mean, it's kind of like getting halfway through a marathon and then someone's like, oh my God, sorry, we didn't start the clock. You're going to have to start from the start. And you're like, I'm not fucking doing that. Like, no, absolutely no way. Like, it's you're already like, oh, but I've done this hard bit. Like, no. So anyway, like in my head, I was like, I'll have a little break. Like, I'll maybe come back to that next year or something. But like, I'm going to go away and I'm just going to be a personal trainer for a while. And then I started online coaching like before it was cool, right? Before it was like a thing. And I mean, like, I wasn't making very much money from it at all. And I was personal training along the side of it. And I guess that's how that side grew. But I actually, what I failed to mention on this is that I was just posting content since I was at uni. So I used to kind of write content to kind of make it make sense in my head. So then, like, because if you can explain it to someone on Facebook who knows nothing about sports science, then, you kind of understand it. So I was doing that like throughout uni, and I was always sporty and I was always sharing like my own training and my own journey and what I was learning. And I don't think I realized until afterwards, but I got really lucky with who had kind of like taught me at the gym. Like, and people are like, oh, what's the stupid thing you did at the gym when you first started? I'm like, I literally first started by being taught by the Scottish rugby coaches. Like I got really, really lucky with like the people I was just hanging around with. Like I didn't make any mistakes because they wouldn't let me, So I got really lucky with that. And I was kind of sharing some of that stuff. So I think that helped like build a following and build trust and build like, oh, this person kind of knows what they're talking about and they're qualified. And so then I started online coaching and I went through numerous different programs, worked with different people. And then kept building stuff, kept refining things, built my own program I'm really proud of and have been like kind of refining that for years. And then got to the point where actually the reason EIQ started, which is the nutrition course, is that I was on holiday with Amelia, my business partner, and she's incredible. So she has a PhD in exercise physiology and she's a nutritionist, like a qualified nutritionist. And she used to teach nutrition at Manchester Uni. And she'd been asked to do like, she'd just written a course for Optimum Nutrition, like one of their like nutrition courses or something. And somebody else had asked her to write a course as well. And I was like, what are they going to pay you? And she said, and I was like, you could just do that yourself and you'd make so much more money. And she was like, nah, I don't know. Like it's a lot. And I was like, I bet in your first intake, you'd make more than that. And then you just have the course rolling. Like, I was like, why wouldn't you do it? Just back yourself. Just like, I was like, you can't either go back and ask for double or like back yourself and do it yourself. And then she was like, would you do it with me? And I was like, hell yeah, I'd do it with you. So that's kind of how EIQ was born. And then we built this program, and that's been running for over 5 years now. I've had over, I think, close to 3,000 coaches doing it now, which is incredible.
Amazing.
And a lot of coaches, this is a cool thing that happened. Well, it's happened a few times, but it happened yesterday as well. Was someone was like, I need to employ a coach, but I only want them to be EIQ qualified, so I don't have to, there's no point getting a coach and then being like, I have to look over your shoulder to make sure you're doing check-ins right. She's like, I know if they've been taught by you, then like they're already going to know their shit. I know they're on the same have the same views as me. I know that they know how to coach people. I know when to push people, when to not push people. Like the same philosophy around nutrition. So that's cool. It's kind of become like a bit of an industry standard. And
that's really awesome.
Yeah. And then I started AFM partly because, as I'm sure you know, I'm willing to bet most of your DMs are full of shitty male business mentors like, hey man, how long have you been coaching for?
Yeah.
And I kind of wanted
The
to
classic. I love what you're doing. Insert the first word of your profile. Reference the most recent video that you've posted. This is great. You deserve more reach. Let me help you. I'm like, no, I'm good. Cheers.
yeah, yeah.
You can take your 320 followers and go and talk to somebody else.
Yeah, exactly. Or you sign up and they're like, oh, sorry, you need to join for a year. And then the main piece of advice is DM 50 people a day. And you're like, wow, that will make me hate my life. Anyway, I wanted to prove it didn't have to be done like that. And I was kind of, I think for a while I was like, there's no women in business mentoring. There's no, and then I was like, why are you complaining? Just fucking do it. Like, don't complain about something if you're not going to change it, right? So
then it creates a gap, doesn't it? Because if there's nobody else doing it, then there's a greater opportunity. Certain areas of business mentoring are super saturated. So if you've got something that actually sets you apart, it's a greater opportunity for success.
Yeah, I'd like to think, without being a dick, maybe this does make me a dick, I don't care. There are a few key things that set me apart. Number one, obviously, I am female. Number two, I actually have built and run successful coaching businesses, and you would be very surprised the amount of business mentors that have not done that, which I think is I wouldn't go to a mentor that has not done that.
On that, I think that's a really valuable point, because the industry does seem that there's a multitude of people who have been online coaches who didn't get their business off the ground and realized that it's easier to make the 10k months they were aiming for if they're charging $1,000 a month for business mentorship. And it's baffling the amount of people that do it, because I saw quite a rapid growth and success through TikTok. So I started to and I was taking coaches on and kind of mentoring them, and I thought to myself, Joe, I could build out a small course. It wasn't even going to be that expensive. I think it was like 500 quid, as a way to basically, similar to what you've done, kind of coach and mentor people to a point where I can then say, actually, do you know what, you can now come in, you can coach as part of my academy. And I know that I've kind of given them the guidance of how to build their business, but also how to coach effectively. And what stopped me is, it was literally, I'd done all the work, everything was kind of built, ready to go, and the industry just seemed to explode with all of these people posting the same videos. Are you a coach that's struggling to get to 10 grand months? And then it was like, are you not doing 30 grand months every month and your business is failing? I was like, do you know what, this is a noise I don't want to be a part of. And I was like, that can just go and sit in the in the corner and collect dust. I'm just going to focus back on my primary focus, which is coaching people, because it just seemed to happen overnight, that suddenly everybody that failed as an online coach was now coaching people to be an online coach.
Yeah, it's good. Like, I mean, it's worrying that people can't see that, because sometimes people are like, oh, what do you think of this person? I'm like, well, they've never done what you want to do. Like, I mean, you're more successful than they ever were as an online coach. Like, and it's not all about that, but like, it's pretty fundamental, I think. And also I think it gives me an edge that I still coach, because what worked even last year doesn't really work now, let alone what worked when you were actually an online coach 10 years ago or something, or when you say that you were. And there's a lot of big names, which I won't actually go into, but there's a lot of big names that lie a lot. And the reason that you know that they lie a lot is because I'm a fucking grandma of the industry. Like, I was there when you were starting too. Like, a lot of the stuff that you say that you did never happened. Or people that are like, yeah, no, I had like the biggest online coaching platform in the UK. I'm like, no, you didn't. Like, because I worked for the biggest online coaching platform in the UK, and that wasn't you. You know what I mean? It's just like, I was fucking there. Or they pull out numbers, and I'm like, a very well-known business coach once told me that he had 3,000 people in his coaching program, right? And I'm like, James Smith was pulling in about that amount of people in his peak, you know, like in his, when he was doing more of the online coaching side. You weren't doing that. There's not I would literally bet my whole net worth on the fact that you were not doing that. Like, I know for a fact you weren't. But then I'm just like, but why lie? You know, like. But
also, I always find it interesting when people are like, say that they've built businesses to these massive sizes, and they're like, and now I'm doing this, and I'm like, but if you built your business that successfully, why would you just close it one day to go and do something similar but ultimately different? Like, yeah, you can branch off and you can diversify, but it's all the people that are like, I built a business to, yeah, 7 figures monthly revenue, and I closed that down to do this. I'm like, why did you? Why did you close down a stupidly lucrative business to go and start from scratch? You didn't. You 100% didn't.
You didn't, but it's not only that. It's like, why did you shut down your wildly successful online coaching business to now cold DM me and try
Yeah.
and pressure me into buying your thing? It's like everyone needs to take a step back and be like, if someone is that successful, trust me, they are not getting on calls with you and trying to pressure sell you into buying their £1,000 a month coaching program. If they're like, I'm a multi-millionaire and I'm off doing this and da da da, they're not doing that. Like no one, they don't have the scarcity to do that. They wouldn't be doing that. It's just it's very interesting. Very interesting world. Like people need to be very skeptical with that. And I think that's actually why AFM does so well, is that most people who join have been listening to me for years. There's an element of trust of like, I mean, we've not had much direct communication, but like, because you've been following me for years, my values, that I've not like stepped a foot wrong. I've not been randomly selling Herbalife or selling out to some shit or, whatever. It's like, you probably trust the fact that actually the cost of mentorship, like if I fucked you over, is just not worth my reputation to me. Like I would never, I'd never do that. So there is an element of trust there, even if we haven't had like much like direct like intercourse between, is that, yeah. Yeah, whatever. Right, fine. Oh, I'm tired this morning. Okay.
No, I get what you mean, and again, I think it speaks volumes to the power of social media in terms of you can build this relationship, this trust between people that you've never met. And obviously we met first properly at IFS last year, and that was my first IFS. First solo trip. It was also the inspiration for the podcast, because I spent 5 days drinking mojitos and thought, this I've had some great chats, let's recreate that when I get home. But what I found really strange is that there was so many people there, yourself and others I followed for years, and it's like you weirdly feel like you know them, but you're also like, I don't actually know you, but I feel like I do. And
have you heard of the concept of a parasocial relationship?
Yes, yeah,
which is exactly what you're talking about, but it's also what I tell all my coaches that they need to build. Because you're never, I know that like the standard marketing principle is like you need to know someone, like someone, trust someone. That is insanely hard to build on social media without having some kind of long form content, so like a podcast or something, right? If someone listens to this, they already kind of feel like they know you a bit, or they know me a bit, whoever they're being introduced to, because they've listened to an hour of us having a chat, and like they can hear the tone of your voice and what you're passionate about, what you're into. You don't get so much of that on Instagram in like a 15-second clip or like 1 minute reel or something. So that relationship is actually very important to build, and it's the only way you're ever going to scale, is that you need more people to feel like they know you than you know them.
And I think it's really important. But again, it shows the benefit of social media platforms and the impact that correct information can have. It also shows the risk factor that we've got to navigate as evidence-based coaches who try to uphold our own moral compass and have an ethical approach to coaching, in terms of we don't lie, we don't mislead, we don't product push or encourage things that we know are essentially dangerous. The challenge that you've got is there are people that are building the whole know, like, trust type vibe with people through sharing awful information, and it's a subject that I want to kind of like dig into and get your views on, because you are doing a lot to challenge that. You always have. It was a big driver for wanting to have this chat. Is I was encouraged by people with the podcast to maybe try and get as many people on that I've got different views to and different opinions to kind of like have head-to-heads and challenges with. And I thought, I do a lot of calling out on my content. I feel like what I wanted from the podcast is actually to create a forum where I get as many people who I can trust will say the right information, so that we can just put good information out. It might be a boring listen because we agree on 99% of things, but actually if it just helps widen the scope of people being able to get access to better information, then that just helps from a long-term perspective. And it's a big part of what I do with my content and always have done. So but like I said, it highlights the challenge that we've got in terms of there are people doing very similar things from a much less ethical standpoint. The explosion of like the carnivore diet, for example, of over the last probably 18 months, and all of the as I like to call them, shit cunts that have jumped on that, is baffling. So what I'd like to know is, from your perspective, well, actually, I guess, what are the biggest things that are pissing you off right now in the industry? We've
Um,
touched upon a few already, but
I think because of my demographic, I mostly work with perimenopausal women. The information around that is horrendous.
yeah,
The
which
kind
is,
of fear mongering around it, the notion that you need to train completely different as a woman or as someone
yeah.
going through perimenopause. Like,
So this is really interesting to me because a lot of my clients are perimenopausal, menopausal women. I get a lot of like questions and comments, particularly through TikTok, on the subject, and I always have to like preface everything with, I will never understand it. Like I've learned about it and I understand it from a theoretical perspective, but I will never have empathy. I will never go through it. I will never experience it. So whilst I can say, yes, this is how it can affect people, this is what you can look out for and what you can experience, I always find I always feel slightly don't know what the word is. Not, it's not disingenuous. It's not that's too strong of a word, but I always feel a little bit cautious when I'm, as a 36-year-old male who's never going to experience, not even, I won't even experience a menstrual cycle, let alone the loss of one. I always find I'm a bit like, oh, it's a hard conversation to have, because I don't want to speak in to, like, too strong a view of things on the basis that it's too easy for somebody to go, what do you fucking know? You've
yeah,
never been through it.
it's easy to come across as mansplaining, even if you're
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the thing is because a lot of my clients are going through that, and have a lot of my clients over the last few years have been, I get sent so much information, and the worst information out there does always seem to be 20 something blokes giving advice on how to best navigate menopause, and I'm like, this feels wrong. This feels
Yeah.
really
So
wrong.
I would say I've only yesterday someone sent me something very similar to that, but I tend not to see that many men talking about it. I actually think what the worrying part for me is it's often on the surface very credible women giving out really poor information, maybe even
Mm.
people with doctors. Just going to say it, Dr. Stacey Sims, or like
Yeah,
some of the really awful and quite damaging information for women, I think, and kind of like fear mongering around certain types of exercise and around worrying about cortisol levels and that you have to do something completely different. And I think people are left really confused. And if you're confused, you tend not to act, right? If you're like, well, I don't want to do the wrong thing. I don't want to go to the gym and do the
yeah.
wrong thing. Let's be real. I
It's
don't
that
want to go to the gym
paralysis by
anyway.
analysis, isn't it?
Yeah. And if you're like struggling already and like, I don't want to exercise. And now I've seen someone saying I should only do resistance training, and someone saying like, you should only do cardio. And then someone else saying, if you do spin, it's going to make everything worse. And I like spin. And now I don't know what to do. So, you know what? I'm just going to do nothing. Not only is that just like bad information and hey, they don't get to their goals, it's more the point like it is negatively impacting someone's health long
Yeah.
term. Like that has a huge impact. If you're someone who used to always go to classes and then suddenly you see all this stuff online about that spike in your cortisol levels and it's the worst thing you could be doing if you're a perimenopausal woman, and then you're not exercising, that is actively bad for your health,
Mm.
like in a big way. And I
Yeah.
think that kind
And
of stuff
not
is
least from a mindset perspective, this is a conversation I've had with loads of my clients, is when you're going through menopause, how you feel can change quite severely, minute to minute. With some of my clients, they'll say, they wake up, they're fine in the morning, 10 minutes later they're like wanting to get a divorce from their husband, like they fucking hate their life, they're real miserable, and then 10 minutes later they feel great, and it's like this constant roller coaster of emotions. And if you go and take away something somebody actually really enjoys that could be bringing them just one piece of peace and tranquility in their mind during what is a really turbulent time emotionally for a lot of women, that in itself can be really damaging. Like I did a post recently on for Men's Mental Health Month, obviously, about how severe the suicide rates are in men under the age of 50 and what have you. But actually, when you look at suicide rates in women, they are at their peak typically around the same time that women go through menopause. And I think a lot of the information, you hit the nail on the head so perfectly. A lot of the information out there isn't just misinformation that you can go, well, that's you probably don't want to listen to that. It's not bad. It's actually the knock-on effect. Taking stuff out of people's life that they actively enjoy at a time where they're probably not feeling that much enjoyment for life in general. That in itself can just make the statistics even worse around around suicide rates. And I know it's quite a jump to say telling somebody not to do spin is going to make them jump off a cliff, but again, if that's the one thing that somebody looks forward to during a period where they are struggling, you don't want to take that kind of stuff away just because some idiot's like, oh, it will spike your cortisol and then you'll never lose weight. Like, it's people, I don't think enough people consider the potential ramifications of sharing heavily weighted opinions dressed up as fact.
Yeah, and I think it's especially bad from people who should know better. I mean, I even completely dispute the kind of line of like women aren't little men, because like, I mean, obviously we're not, but when it comes to losing fat and building muscle, like, we are. The same things work.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
it's the same process. Like, and now
the principles are consistent across the board. Yes, there will be some subtle differences in terms of capability for muscle mass due to levels of testosterone. Yeah, absolutely. But the simple fact is the principle for building muscle is exactly the same irrespective of gender. From that side of things, it's yes, your expectations of what you can build maybe need to be slightly adjusted. If you're a 20-something woman and you're wanting to pack on size and you're looking at a 20-something guy and you're going, I want to put on as much muscle as him in the same period of time, yeah, you may be setting yourself up for a little bit of disappointment. But the reality is the principle of how you would go about it would be exactly the same as that individual. And again, it's one of the many things that piss me off about the industry, is that people overlook principles in order to push methods and various opinions and rhetoric that just are purely designed to boost their engagement and their interaction and grow them as a person of authority on a subject, rather than actually trying to help and educate. And the irony is, I think if more people tried to accurately help and educate, they would achieve all the things they want to achieve through interaction, engagement, and being trusted and elevating themselves to a higher level within an industry. And they do it the right way, but people want things as quick as possible, don't they? So they become cunts.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe that's it.
What a summary.
Yeah.
But
Mike.
so yeah, absolutely. We'll just call it there. No, but so obviously the menopause side of things is a big thing that rightfully pisses you off at the moment. Is there anything else that you're seeing at the moment that you think you can't wait for that to have ridden its wave and died off, or is that the biggest one for you at the moment?
I think it's probably what I'm most passionate about, because I care a lot about my clients and I hate seeing them misled and confused and things. I mean, supplements are always an issue.
Yeah,
there's always over hypes. There's always someone selling something new, some quick fix, some fad. So that's just been consistent forever and always will be.
Yeah, and I think the beauty that we'll probably always have with supplements is it's so easy to create it's not a pyramid scheme, it's an MLM, which is a pyramid scheme, but it's very easy to create those businesses off of the back of a tangible product. And the challenge that you then have is the focus doesn't even become about selling the product, it just becomes about selling the normally the vision of time of financial freedom.
Yeah, I think
madness.
then it's got worse because of influencers being paid to promote things.
Yeah,
so you see it more. Like, when I first started in the industry, like, yeah, there were always supplements flying around that, like, I just don't think it was as big a problem because not as many people were talking about them. But now it's like your favorite influencer or whatever is pushing you something else each week, and you can tell that they're being paid a huge amount to it. Like, I don't know why that's not a massive red flag to people, when it's like, even when they disclose that it's an ad, and you're still like, oh wow, they're saying it changed their life.
Yeah,
right. But last week it was something else that fucking changed their life, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my favorite one that I saw, and her name is just escaped me, and I won't say the name that's in my head because I don't actually think that's the right person, and I'll just probably throw somebody under a bus. But there's a PT. She's in her 40s, in very, very good shape. In her early days, basically just posted a lot about her training and her food, but now nearly every post is all about greens powders and how that's the reason that she's in shape. And I'm like, and the amount of people that lap it up, oh my God, I've just bought these. I'm so glad I saw this. And you just sit there and you go, how are you not seeing through this? How are you not seeing what everyone else with a brain cell can see, which is already in shape, began selling a product never used, and gave credit to her condition based off the like it, timelines don't seem to exist when people start selling products.
Well,
But I also
the most obvious example of this, and like I used to be a USN sponsored athlete, right? But I only got that because I was in shape, right? Before I ever took a USN supplement, of which I never really took that many anyway. You know, the protein powder was good, great. Basic whey protein, could have got it anywhere. Tasted pretty good, whatever. I like them as a brand, but equally, it wasn't the reason I was in shape, right? And if you look at any kind of bodybuilder, if you were in the physique world, they only ever get a sponsorship once they've won something, once they're already in shape, you know, once they're already successful. It's like Ronaldo with like Herbalife. Is it Ronaldo?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And you're like, well, he's already the best football player in the world, and now he's taken Herbalife. Oh, it must be the Herbalife that's helped him with it. Yeah. When you like zoom out, even if you look in different industries and you see like, I don't know, like Cheryl Cole washing her hair with some like herbal whatever, and then she's like, this is the shampoo I use, and it's like, you know fine well that hair has been done with like a full team of hair specialists, blow dried, like blah blah blah, all sprayed. It's not
CGI
like
to show it.
Yeah, it's not just got out the shower from using fucking Head and Shoulders and has been like, oh, look at me. Like, there's no way that she uses that. She probably uses something that's like 20 times more expensive and has a full team of people to make her hair look good. It's not the shitty shampoo, is it? But yet we still kind of fall for it because there's like a weird trust element that you see when you see like a brand and a person, that the likelihood is they never used that. Or if they have, like, it's a very new thing as soon as they've been paid to use it.
Yeah. And now you've got the two-pronged approach of everyone that's ever done a reality TV show that's struggling to get work afterwards becomes like a Herbalife rep. Their agents, whoever they are, should be shot in the kneecaps for continually putting these people onto MLMs. And then you've got all of the people like Urania Booz who are struggling to stay relevant, who are now trying to lay claim that they're in fantastic shape because they live off of meat and eggs. And you go, well, that's really funny because everything you're demonizing now is the exact opposite of what you used to do when you won Mr. Olympia, when you would have also been trying to claim that you were the healthiest person in the world. So which is it? Which is mad. But I think on the subject of supplements, it seems quite timely at the moment after the recent bout of exposés. I wasn't even surprised, to be honest with you, when I saw that the next brand of gummies, creatine gummies, contained zero creatine in. But I think it's a subject that we should definitely discuss, because when they first landed creatine gummies, this was probably last year, maybe the year before, I started doing content on them. And the issue that I had at the time, which is quite laughable now with everything that's come out with push gummies and with overload, I found it mildly amusing that there was all these people jumping on TikTok and they were showing fantastic transformations that clearly didn't involve steroids. And they were attributing it to their single dose creatine gummies. And then you look at the packet and the single dose was 3 grams of creatine. And you go, what? Pretty sure the last time I checked, the minimum recommended dosage is normally about 5 grams per day, depending on your size, maybe 7, maybe even 10 grams. And yet instantly people are like, I take these gummies once a day and look how jacked I got in a month. And you go, that's bollocks. The irony is most of them now, turns out they don't even have any creatine in them. So they're just expensive sweets.
Yeah, no creatine in them. But honestly, even if they did, you wouldn't get a massive transformation. It's like you clearly don't know what you're talking about. It's very, you know, like the reason that creatine seems so overhyped is because it's one of the very, very, very few supplements that actually have any research behind them. But the results you're going to get are minimal. Most people won't be able to see them or feel them massively. You know, like you might feel a bit stronger. Some people say that they do, but realistically, it's more likely in your head.
Yeah, and I was going to say, it's like when people
you do see this like increase in strength, but it's minimal. Like it's not night and day. It's not like taking steroids. It's not like you're suddenly going to notice this huge change in anything.
Yeah,
but no, it didn't surprise me at all, because it's not only an issue with like, okay, creatine gummies were one thing. almost all supplements are underdosed compared to what they say on the label. And there's been like, this has been known for decades. There's loads of research showing this. You go look on PubMed, that every time things get studied. This was huge when CBD came out. And there was one study I read that was like 90% of the CBD products that we tested didn't have the amount of CBD that they said in them. And of those, 60% had none, not any. Right. And you just think, but then actually the study I looked at yesterday, because someone had asked me about this with what James was talking about, and this was more like a broad spectrum of supplements. And again, it's like the vast majority don't have what they say they have in them, but some of them have actually none of the active ingredient, like not any, you know, they're just pills of nothing.
Yeah. And then what makes it worse is you've then also got all of the other supplements where they trade off of acute, like short-term effects and promote it like it's a long-term, like significant effect. So again, things like Shilajit, and they go, oh, it's amazing, it boosts your testosterone significantly. And you go, well, no, it has an acute response that lasts for like a matter of seconds, where your testosterone production may skyrocket, but it's an acute response. It's a temporary response. It's not actually going to elicit any further muscle growth or potential to grow muscle. But they go, well, we tested it, and it was a 3,000% increase in testosterone when taking it. And you go, yeah, but how long for? Because the response I always talk about when people go, oh, this product's really good, I've been taking it for ages, and you go, you get a greater testosterone release watching your favorite sports team, but there's not a single person who's jacked who spends all their time just sat watching hour upon hour of football or whatever their preferred sport is and end up like fucking swole. It just doesn't happen like that. Like, acute temporary responses are not the same as long-term effect, and
it's kind
that's
of
a big issue.
Yeah, it's the same idea as like fasted cardio and fat burning rates. And it's like, okay, you will be utilizing more fat doing fasted cardio, but it doesn't mean you're going to lose more body fat over time. That still comes to a calorie deficit. The fuel utilization in the moment doesn't matter. But then you'll have people saying like, oh, you know, you're going to burn this much more fat if you do it fasted. And what they're looking at is fat oxidation rates, which doesn't directly translate.
Yeah, it's the luxury that we have in the world at the moment. We've got the greatest access to information and the largest amount of misinformation being shared, because people are cherry picking what fits their narrative. And I believe it was Ricky Gervais. I've said on previous episodes, I don't like using comedians as a great way to emphasize points, because I know 90% of what they say is inflated for comic effect. However, he raised a really good point at the moment, which is people would much rather try to change the truth to meet their opinions than form opinions based on the facts at hand. And that's the supplement industry is the best example of that, because they will take very minimal benefits, and I use the phrase benefit really fucking loosely, magnify it as much as they can, and then sell it to anyone that's willing to pay for it. And a bit like with the push gummies in James's video, the challenge that you've got is people are taking their products and going, it doesn't even taste like it's got creatine in it. And they, instead of using that as a red flag and be like, well, why doesn't it? They're going, this is the best thing ever. And they just take more and more of it because like it's avoided one of the issues of creatine, and that it's flavor. And the supplement side of things it's just I don't think it'll ever go away, because people inherently like a quick fix and they just market off of that. But it does create, again, I think it creates a bit of a requirement for people like you and I to be sharing more and more information about what is actually being purchased, because 99% of the supplement industry is hot air. And it goes inside.
Yeah, I generally like try and avoid taking most supplements. I find the creatine stuff funny, because there used to be someone we both probably know who's like released a creatine that doesn't cause water retention, and to me that was just like, so it doesn't work. Like, if your creatine wouldn't like require water to be stored, it means that there's no creatine in it, or it means that it's not working. It's like it's a side effect that shows that it's working. So I find that funny, but generally I just try and avoid supplements, because it's so hard to know what's actually in any of them. And then I always get like the pushback of like, well, then which ones do we know to trust? The truth is, Probably none of them. You know, you can get ones that are informed, tested by sport. They're probably going to be better, but like you never really know what's in them. And a lot of the time, like all these things are coming from the same places. Like, wouldn't surprise me if a lot of these gummies just came from the same places. You know, like if you've ever looked into this, and like I have, because I'm business savvy and I love looking into things, but you order them from like AliExpress type place or Alibaba, whatever. Like there's hundreds of different options for you. You can order huge batches that can come in the packages you want. You're paying about £2 as long as you buy hundreds and hundreds, you know, thousands of job lot, and then you sell them out, or you can even drop ship them so you never touch them. But like, do you think most of these people aren't bothering to look at them? You can just get white label everything and just like stick your label on it. You never have to see it. You never have to touch it. And then you start pushing it on Instagram. That's what most people are doing. Like you're buying stuff off like TikTok Shop and all this shit. Like these supplement companies that just pop up overnight. That's how they're doing it. It's not like they're formulating their own things. They're just looking, they're white labeling something else. And when you go and look at the white label, you're like, that looks exactly like Optimum Nutrition. That looks exactly like the one I buy at Holland and Barrett. Do you know why? Because probably half of them fucking are.
Yeah. And the thing is there are thousands of products that is ethically absolutely fine with. The trouble is that where, again, the same with like MLMs, there are loads of MLMs out there for beauty products or whatever it is, and do you know what, not really an issue, because
so you think it's not an issue because it's not your area, but it is an issue. Like it's still the same shit. Like it's the same issue. If someone's saying this cream is going to stop you having acne, or this cream is going to tighten this, or this cream has collagen in, so it's going to firm your skin, and that's all bullshit too. Like it's the same thing.
Yeah, sorry, probably the wrong use of phrase there, but from a nutrition perspective, a lot of the products out there, like I think I think nutrition in general is an area that needs so much more regulation, because it is so easy to adopt an approach that is perhaps not as unethical in other areas with physical products, and people are applying that approach, that method, that logic to health related products, which is actually potentially quite damaging, but at the very least is just a massive waste of money. And the weird thing is we've got things like consumer protection, where you should, in theory, as a consumer, be protected to make sure what you're buying is actually what it says it is. But that doesn't seem to deter people from, as we've said, like quite clearly just misleading, packaging something up and going, yeah, this is whatever it is, despite the fact that it contains zero amount. It's very weird that so much time was spent making things watertight so people couldn't get sued, to the point where you can't buy a hot drink anymore without it telling you that the contents are hot, because somebody might sue you. Yet you can quite happily buy a fuckload of health and fitness related supplement products, which don't do what they say they're going to do, and 9 times out of 10 don't even contain what they say they do. It's very weird. It's very strange.
It is weird. And like my kind of skeptical view on this, and I have this view for like various things in life, whether it's like the obesity epidemic or like the way that we're taught about money and finances. It's like, look, wouldn't it be great if the whole of society changed? Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if like all of online coaches had to do a qualification and had to actually be regulated? Wouldn't it be great if all the supplements regulated? Yeah, it's not going to happen. Or it's not going to happen soon enough for it to benefit you as an individual. So you kind of have to take it into your own hands. Like no one is going to come along and, you know, change the whole system so that you know exactly what to do with your money to make it work for you. You're going to have to figure it out yourself. No one's going to come along and change the whole of society and the environment that we live in so that it's no longer an obesogenic environment and the predisposition for everyone is to gain weight. No one's going to do that. Probably ever, but certainly not within your lifetime. So you're going to have to take responsibility for it. It's the same with this. Like no one's going to come and regulate the supplement industry. You're going to have to do it for yourself. Like you're going to have to be a bit more savvy. You're going to have to ask the questions. You're going to have to, honestly, if it's too good to be true, trust me, it's too good to be true. Like until you have, if it's too good to be true, like I'd be asking for a shitload of evidence. And hey, maybe then you're going to open your eyes to it. But like 9 times out of 10, if not 99 times out of 100, like there's a reason that it's too good to be true, because it's bullshit.
Yeah, and I think on that note, if the response to asking for evidence is that you get told to do your own research, that's normally a big red flag that there is no evidence to support the claim. And that there's probably a multitude of evidence to support the opposite of what's being claimed as well. But I completely agree.
But this
I
does
think
actually, it's a lot harder now. Like, it's very easy for us to sit here and be like, ask for evidence. And I realize I've just said that. But if, for example, you're talking to someone like Stacey Sims and she's like, well, here is a study that proves this. You need to be able to read the study and interpret the study to realize that that study does not prove what she's saying, and have the time and like want and motivation to do that, which is a lot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the studies she quotes do not prove what she's saying at all, or it's in a completely different population. And so I think that requires like a level of skill that most people don't have, nor would I expect general population to have. Like, it's really hard to read research.
Yeah.
Like, really hard.
And
Like,
again, I think
research is like out with my field, my very like specific field that I can understand. I struggle to interpret research, so like to expect that someone who doesn't have a science background could do that, like, is even harder.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the challenge, isn't it? Is a lot of people that they will know that they will cherry pick elements and phrases from studies that potentially appear to confirm the claims they're making, and they'll put it out there safe in the knowledge that there's very few people who've got the time, the inclination, and the actual ability to go and analyze the information that's been put out there to be able to confirm or discredit what's been said. And it's a shame that I always, I would love the industry to get to a place where it's a safe space, with things like, the financial industry that is heavily regulated. That if you go to somebody for financial advice, they are legally obligated to give you sound advice. It's a safe space for anyone that's struggling with their finances to a degree. There's probably
you can see my face. That's why it's like, to a degree. Yeah. I mean, like, there are issues with that as well as there are with every industry.
But it's a little bit better than,
but it's significantly better regulated than
be honest.
But it's not like, so there's still, the thing is, nutritionists who are accredited and are part of AFN, they are regulated, right? This is the same. So because maybe you don't follow so much of the finance side of things, you maybe don't see this as much, but there's the same issue. Anyone who's actually a financial advisor and is regulated with the FCA, they can't say that much. But I can go on and say whatever the fuck I want because I'm not regulated. I'm not held to a standard, right? So anyone who's not a registered nutritionist with AFN, they can say whatever they want. They can't be held to account. That's why you get random people saying stuff. Like, there are these things in place that are meant to work, but because people aren't with them or aren't, like, they're not under that jurisdiction, then it's like, well, they can say whatever they want. And no one's going to say anything about it. And like, that's the problem. So that's why you get random people being like, put all your money into crypto and blah, 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 blah. Like, the FCA can't say anything because they're not regulated by the FCA. They don't care if they're like, oh, you're going to be struck off this list. I wasn't even on it in the first place. I didn't care.
Yeah, true. Very true.
And I don't mean to just be like, there's problems with everything. Like, that's the thing. It's like, you have to take personal responsibility because you're not just going to be given the best advice. Like, and even if you do go to like the regulated places, I mean, my opinion is that isn't the best financial advice, and they're going to charge you a fuck ton for really fucking basic advice that you could have worked out yourself. But my experience of it.
And then if you do get somebody that's able to help with your finances significantly, you end up in a situation probably like Jimmy Carr, where that person ends up in prison and you end up in the press for tax.
Exactly, right? Yeah.
So probably maybe I won't use the finance industry next time as a benchmark.
I don't know if there is, because even the medical industry, it's like, doctors should be kind of, they should be able to take them to the board or whatever. But like, there are some doctors that give out horrendous advice. I don't know how they're getting away with it, but like, even like Louise Newson, I don't know how she wasn't like struck off.
Yeah, very true.
Like, she's not been, like, there's a whole fucking BBC Panorama documentary on it and she's not been. So I don't know how any of that works either. Yeah,
it's crazy. And again, on that side of things, there's a lot of doctors who have been obviously on the Diary of a CEO podcast, and Stephen Bartlett obviously got done by a BBC expose where they worked out over like a 3-month period across 17 episodes. There were like multiple incidences of dangerous misinformation being shared across like 17 episodes, and funnily enough, every single person that related to is still out there doing doing their thing, making their money. But it does make it.
What was most worrying about that is when I saw that shared. I can't remember if it was on, might have been the BBC, like a reel of it or something. And the comments on it was so terrifying because all of them were like, no, this is big pharma trying to get in the way, or like these people are telling the truth. You're just trying to like block that. Like, do your research on the, like this fucking. It was just like, wow. Even when you're given the evidence, you don't want to believe it. So
Confirmation biases. Yeah, confirmation bias is massively overtaken an evidence bias in society at the moment. People will formulate an opinion and then they become quite tribal about protecting their opinion, which in some instances is quite funny. For example, flat earthers, quite amusing watching them try and defend and claim that the earth is flat. When it comes to actual health related topics, slightly more concerning, the sheer volume of people that seem to think if you cut out 99% of all foods that is somehow healthier than eating a widely balanced diet, based on the fact that we've got decades of study data that confirms doing so is better for optimum health. But also you can't put across that standpoint anymore without being called a vegan, despite the fact that people seem to overlook a balanced diet does also include meat. If you say the carnivore diet is shit, you're not saying only vegetables, you're saying don't just eat meat and nothing else. It's a weird world that we live in, but I personally am very grateful that the industry has got people like you who take the time to do the research, to put your accurate evidence-based information out there in a way that people can actually break down and understand, that's not too technical. Because again, that's always been a bugbear. Some of the best people out there for evidence-based content, it can be quite information heavy, and that in itself can then mean that there's a lot of people that perhaps don't take it on because it's too fucking much. Whereas you've got an excellent ability of putting forward evidence-based information, backing it up with data in a way that's actually really easy to digest and to take on board. So I think you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Well, thank you. It's hard to keep all
right.
that stuff entertaining when it's not extreme, but
yeah, but which again, that in itself is a really great point, because everybody from a social media perspective, it is about entertaining, and the best way to generate engagement and entertainment is to be polarized, is to position something that is going to trigger everybody on either side of what you've just said. And that's it's a challenge that we've got as creators, because again, we don't want to get lost in the noise, but we also don't want to have to adopt the dirty tactics of jumping on the next trend just to seem relevant. The industry is undoubtedly a better place for creators like yourself, who do things in a really, really decent way. So well done for
not being I would like to turn that compliment back to you as well. I think you're doing a great job, and I love what you're doing with the podcast and with your content, and more people giving out good information, I think, is always a win.
Well, thank you very much. I would take that as a compliment of the highest order. So thank you very much. I think we're at a good place to begin rounding things off. So what's next for you? I always like to understand where what's next on the horizon. Obviously, the business mentoring and stuff seems to be a key focus, but what's coming next?
Yeah, I think I've always been really excited by impact, which is why even when actually, back in the day when it wasn't a good financial decision to move online, I still moved online because I wanted the impact that can have. And I could see very quickly there's only so many people I can work with in person. How can I reach more people? So that's always been a driver for my business, which is kind of where all of it's led. It went from like one-to-one coaching online, right? That's more than what you can do in person. Then I built a group coaching program, right? That's even more people than what you could do one-to-one online. Then I had coaches that came on and worked with me, so I can help more people. And then it was like, well, how do we help other coaches deliver great information? Okay, that's when we built EIQ Nutrition. And then what I realized after probably about 3 or 4 years doing EIQ is that some of the best coaches, in fact, I would say there's almost a lot of the time like an inverse relationship, with the exception of like quite a few people, of the people that have the biggest followings or the people that have the biggest businesses aren't the best coaches, right? And there were so many incredible coaches that just didn't know how to run their business, or didn't know how to, engage an audience, didn't know how to run a successful business, whether it's in person or online. And so then I was like, well, I want these incredible coaches who I know can have such amazing impact on people's lives to be able to get more people into their business, help more people. And that was like another way of creating impact. So that's kind of what I spend most of my time doing now, is helping, not everyone. Like, I have people apply to AFM, and like, if someone comes to me and they're just like, yeah, I got my coaching qualification last week, I want to sign up, and I don't know, like, I don't really care about coaching, I just want to make money online, I'm not going to work with you. I'm not the coach for you. There's loads of other mentorships that will take your money. You're not welcome here. Like, this isn't a good fit. I want people who are really passionate about coaching, that just probably aren't so good at the business and the marketing side. And like, they're the people that I really want to help. So we have an amazing group, and like, the community within it is so good because of that, because they've been like hand selected to join, as opposed to just letting anybody in who's going to pay. It's like, no, you need to kind of prove that, like, you have the same vibe as us, you have the same values as us. Like, yeah. So that's what I spend most of my time doing now. And then going forward, I'm not sure you picked up on this, I'm very passionate about female in finance.
Yeah.
So I am already sharing like just some basic things that I wish I knew earlier. And I guess it's more specific both to, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be females, but like business owners as well.
I've
known that.
Seen a few posts over the last sort of couple of months sort of dropping in along that side. So I kind of picked up on it a little bit.
I think at some point I will probably develop something, whether it's a course or something like quite basic. I'm not overly against financial advisors. I just think that a lot of what they suggest to most people is very basic, and it's the right thing for them, but it's criminal the amount of money that they make off it. Like, if you're with a financial advisor for your whole life because you just don't really understand it, and let's be real, all they're doing is like a basic, I don't know, 80% in like equities and 20% in bonds, and maybe they move things around a little bit each year as you get closer to retirement. Like, you could literally have a Vanguard fund that does that for you and charges you like 0.002%, or you can pay a financial advisor who will take 1% plus the funds fee. And over the course of your life, like, that's the difference between, like retiring with over $1 million and like retiring with not quite enough money to be retiring on. Like, it adds up massively. And I just think with a little bit of knowledge, that goes a hell of a long way. So that's maybe what I'll be doing a little bit of.
Nice. Well, it sounds super exciting. So I definitely keep an eye out for that. I am notoriously terrible with my finances. So anything that you start sharing that helps improve on the financial side of things, I will be paying attention to, because I like to spend more than I make.
See, that's the first step, is to earn more than you spend and invest the rest.
Yes, that's the dream. That's the dream.
Yeah. But even if it's a small amount, like, it really does like compound and add up. And I'd set it up as a direct debit, like just as if you're paying your rent or your mortgage or whatever. It's like, bam, that should be going into investments.
Yeah. I mean,
and then never think about it.
This feels painfully similar to the conversation I had the first time I ever tried Pilates, and I was told to lift my legs straight all the way up to the ceiling, and they got about an inch off the floor, and they were suddenly at a right angle, and the instructor's like, no, straight legged. And like, we've all got goals, love. we're trying our best over here. How about you just move on to the 6-year-old woman that's absolutely shaming the fitness professional into what flexibility looks like. But what a nice point to end it on. A nice image there to round things off on. But
we can all be thinking about that. Yeah.
Yes, my lack of flexibility, both financially and physically. Before we disappear, just let everybody know where they can find you on social media. If they don't already follow, I'd be amazed if they don't. But if they don't, they need to.
So my main Instagram is at ESG Fitness. If you're a coach, then head over to at AF Mentors. Or if you're interested in finance, I give away a load of free, they've made like a bit of a free finance document of like what I wish I'd known. And then another just like kind of playful thing that I want to prove to people that even a small amount can make a difference. So, this whole idea that, if you just stopped drinking coffee, then you'd be able to save for a house deposit and all this kind of shit, right? I'm so against that, because I buy coffee out every day and I live in London. So I probably spend like minimum £4 a day on coffee, if not like 8 if I get 2, right? So that's expensive, whatever, it adds up. So I match my
coffee is life though. Coffee is
exactly right.
You
and
can't
like
put a price on good coffee.
Yeah, but so instead of being like, yeah, just don't buy coffee and invest it, instead I'm like, match your coffee spend. So I've set up this investment that you can be like, this is how much I spend on coffee, and it will match it every day. So it will just automatically come out of your account into mine. No, I'm joking. It doesn't come into mine. It goes into like a standard index fund. It just tracks the S&P 500. So then, and if you project that and you do it over 20 years, you're going to be £40,000 better off.
Sweet.
On top of the money that you spent on the coffee.
Do I have to spend more money on coffee to get more benefit from this?
Well, I just set it up for £5 a day. Like, I don't actually go in and edit it and more or less or whatever. And like, I make a lot of other investments. So it's more just like a bit of a cool thing. But I kind of wanted people just to see, like, this is a small thing. You know, you're not asking people to put a lot of money away. Like, obviously it's all under your, you know, you do it, you read the terms and conditions and stuff, but it's a nice way to kind of get started with stuff. And then I think unless you have a little bit of skin in the game, you don't really look at stocks. You don't really understand the market. You don't really know what you're investing in and what's going on. So it's a nice, like, dipping your toe in to then be like, okay, well, I've been doing that. Maybe I should figure out what I should do with my ISA. Maybe I should have, you know, some kind of game plan for my investments. Now I can understand how the markets fluctuate and when they go up and when they go down and what happens. And when I look at that over time and how compounding interest works, and it's just an easy kind of like in to learn all of those things.
Yeah, no, I love it. Sounds very exciting, and it's definitely something people should be looking out for. So if you don't already follow, you go and follow Emma. Your content is exceptional on all fronts. You will learn heaps, I'm sure, probably more than you will from me, because I say cunt way too much and people probably get distracted by it. Definitely go and check you out. For everyone who has stuck with us and is listening, obviously make sure you like, share, and all the good stuff. Obviously tune in for the next episode. But Emma, thank you so much for coming on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very welcome.